Hey friends! I'm Grace. I'm Grace Ann.
And I'm Andrea.
And this is GNA for Today.
And if you're new here, we are two best friends living a faith-based lifestyle and
documenting it.
If you haven't already, be sure to watch last week's video, which was a video about what to do if you and your best friend like the same guy.
Ooh.
Yikes.
It was a good one. This week we're talking all about how to disagree respectfully with your friends and those around you, so stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the deep end and we're just going to call out some tips and talk about what to do when you disagree with your friends. So the first tip that we have for you guys is to have an open mind. Because whenever you disagree with your friends on something, be it small or big, you need to make sure that when you're communicating that with them, that you go into the conversation open-minded, because you never know, they might have a view on the situation or have an opinion on the situation that you haven't considered before, or it's something that you've never thought of. So when you go into the conversation with an open mind, you're letting yourself have the possibility of having your mind changed. And it doesn't mean that every time your mind is going to change, because there are definitely times when you go into a conversation with your friend and you just come out of the conversation being like, you know what, we're just going to have to agree to disagree, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that because you're two different individuals. But if you go in with an open mind, you're less likely to argue about it, you're less likely to get heated about the situation, and you can have a cool and calm discussion.
Is to be considerate of your friend's feelings. Sometimes whenever you're like getting in an argument with your friend, you can kind of forget in the heat of the moment like that you're actually speaking to someone with feelings. Like, that sounds stupid, but it's true. Like, you need to be considerate that they actually have feelings, and the words that you say will hurt them if you say the wrong words, and the tone that you use and the body language and the facial expressions, they can all be perceived negatively and they can be perceived positively. But let's try to keep it on the positive side. If you're trying to talk things out with your friends in a calm way, then keep your words nice, keep your body language nice, keep your tone nice, because you just need to be considerate of their feelings whenever you're talking it out.
The next tip definitely goes hand in hand with what Andrea just said, and it's a big deal. Make sure that you are watching your tone when you're talking to someone, especially when you disagree with them, because it's like there's like three basic things with language. There's body language, there's tone, and there's the actual words that you say. So if your tone is slightly off, your friend is going to notice that, especially if you're close, because you know each other so well. And if you are coming at them with a tone that is very demanding and aggressive, that's going to upset them, and that's going to change the direction of the conversation. It's not going to be a peaceful, calm environment. It's going to raise the stakes, it's going to raise emotions, and it's going to change the direction of the conversation, where the conversation could have probably ended up being a really easy 5-minute conversation, but if you switch your tone, it can turn into an argument, and it can turn into a really, really long discussion, or maybe like didn't need to go from point A to point Z and then all the way back, you know? So make sure that you're being careful with your tone and the way that you're approaching the conversation.
This is a pretty big, hefty tip. Comment if you have seen that commercial that's like hefty. Okay. Hefty. So, every single person on this earth is different. Like, we have different minds, we have different opinions, we have different thoughts, beliefs, feelings, everything. So, whenever you're like going in a discussion, remember the fact that you're not going to agree on everything, because if you agreed on everything, then you'd be the same person, and that's like not even possible. I feel like even if clones existed, you wouldn't have the same opinion as your clone. Like, that, I don't know. It's just a fact that everyone has a different opinion, and if you go into it thinking that you're going to change their mind or they're going to change your mind, and like by the end of this conversation we have to be on the exact same page, then you're not going to have any friends because that's not how life works. Because you have to make sure you know, like, okay, it's okay we don't agree on some things, and you need to be okay with the fact that you can't change everybody's mind, and your mind's not going to be changed every single time you and your friend has a disagreement. That would literally be the worst thing. Why would we want to think the same as everyone? So just have that in your mind, that everyone is different. You're not going to agree on everything.
Yeah, and that's like, remember that that's a positive thing. It's not bad to disagree, and it's not a negative thing. I know that like you might feel like it's a negative thing because maybe that's like what you were taught growing up, because I know that like I was taught that disagreeing is like not a good thing. Like you need to be you need to agree with your friends, you need to do this and stuff like that, but that's not a productive mindset. Like you're not going to agree 100% on everything with everybody in the world. It's just never going to happen. So like be aware of that. This is one of the biggest tips, I think. That one, the one that we just shared, and then this one. Especially when you're talking to someone that you're really good friends with, know when to drop something and know when to not drop something. Be aware of the impact that this conversation could have on your relationship with each other. Whether that's a friendship, whether that's a relationship, etc. Know that everything that you say is going to have an impact on someone, and it's either going to be a positive impact or a negative impact. And if you keep stringing the conversation along and along and along, and you keep bringing up, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? That is not productive. Sometimes it's necessary, and we understand that, but you need to know when it's making a positive and productive conversation and when it's just making things negative. Because it's okay to have a negative conversation, but you don't want it to last hours and hours and hours, and you don't want to keep bringing up the fact that you have a difference in opinion over and over and over again. Especially if you've already come to a conclusion that, you know, you've presented your case, they've presented their case, and you've decided that both of you are going to stick to your own opinions, and that's fine. But once you've decided that that's fine, you need to be done with it. Like, you don't need to keep bringing it back up. And if something comes up in the future, you need to make sure that you're not pulling that conversation back up, because once you've decided that you're okay with disagreeing and that you understand their perspective and you respect it, but you just don't agree, you need to remember that, and you need to take that seriously, because if you keep bringing it back up and back up and back up, it's just going to keep things negative in your friendship, and it's going to create a barrier, and you don't want that.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that you enjoyed our little tidbits that we have to give you on this subject. Leave a comment if you have any more tips that you have found come in handy for you in your friendships.
Guys, make sure that you hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Click that big red subscribe button. Make sure that it says subscribed. And then click that notification bell, just like always, because you will get notified every time we post a video. Bye, friends. The next tip... A video.